Good evening, friends. Meeting after a gap of 4 5 days in between, and we are discussing regarding the Arsenic Album, only the introductory part of Arsenic Album from Alan's keynotes we have discussed. I have shared few cases of Arsenic Album on that day, and then explained only the how the arsenic presents, the constitution or the arsenic, how arsenic patient enters in your clinic, the approach, the diathesis that explained by Alan in the introductory part. That's what we have discussed. Today we'll go a little bit further in the Alan's keynotes, but before going into the further understanding about Alan's keynotes, I want to share two important cases where I used to think about the Arsenic Album very commonly. Specifically, first thing where I want to think about the Arsenic Album is the psoriatic cases. I will share one case of psoriasis where the eruptions were typical of a psoriasis. They are as if they are on the extensor aspects of the body. Typical psoriasis, that is silvery white scales, easily detachable scales. Diagnosis already patient was under the allopathic treatment since last 4 5 years, and he used to get settled with methotrexate tablets for time being, but he was suffering more and more day by day, and he came with the severe all over the body. He had the eruptions and with a typical scaling. So he was frustrated because of that. That frustration and anxiety was there, and he was considering that now it has become incurable. And then I further asked, I have evaluated the case. I asked, what is your problem? What is the thing? First important thing which he explained, that doctor, there is severe itching, and I cannot tolerate that because I used to eat scratch over there and it burns a lot. It burns a lot. Only when I used to get bath, I used to feel better. So I put naturally the question, do you take cold water bath? No, he said, I feel better by warm water bath. It was very typical with him. So he started getting the psoriatic arthropathy, that is DIP joint, which was getting swollen, and that was because long utilization of the methotrexates and all those allopathic stuff and local ointments. So he was entering into the complications of psoriatic arthropathy at that time. But the modality was very strong, that itching followed by scratching followed by burning, better by warmth. Very typical of the arsenic modality was there. Second important thing, his anxiety, which was very special, and he was doubtful whether he will going to get cured or not, and lot of anxiety because about his health, that was very marked. So everything was confirming that he's arsenic. I started him with arsenic LM1, and I have continued arsenic nearly about arsenic LM20. Every month I used to change. But this fellow, after started the arsenic LM1, he started a rapid recovery. First, his joints, which were swollen, disappeared. Then gradually his burning stopped. He was quite comfortable. Eruptions were there with the LM1, but the itching was controlled, the burning was controlled. Then gradually every month I used to change the LM1, LM2, LM3. When he reached LM6, he was very good. All over the body, the eruptions were completely disappeared. But he thought that it used to happen every summer. So, and it was summer going on. That was the thought in his mind, whether it is going because the summer is there. So I asked him, let you continue medicine. You don't stop the medicine. We have to see that what happens in this winter also. And he has continued. He was ready to continue because he was already suffering a lot, suffered a lot previously. So I continued with him. Arsenic Album LM20. Whole winter has gone, and he had very only 5 or 10% eruptions appeared. 90% recovery was there in the first year. So this is one important thing which you have to take into consideration while treating the cases of psoriasis. And here it requires repetitions whenever the problem is much more, and LM helps a lot. And LM you have to go on gradually increasing so that patient never suffers from aggravation also. And because of LM, you are on a quite safer side. that it never produces any homeopathic aggravation or medicinal aggravation. So that was first important case in which long continued use of arsenic album helped that patient to completely come out with the psoriasis and its complications. So that is the first important thing which I want to share. And second important case, arsenic is a very good remedy for malarial fevers. I had a case of malaria, diagnosed case of malaria, and generally, what we never think about the arsenic when malaria is there or when fever is there, because the thoughts are very fixed when we read the materia medica. It is asthma remedy, it is a remedy for GI troubles, it is food poisoning remedy, etc. Restless. So that was the case of malarial fever, diagnosed case of malarial fever, and he used to get very typical chill followed by heat and followed by sweating. That was very typical with him. But what he told, there are two important things which defines the arsenic album in that case. That is not the malaria, but he used to get a midnight chill around 11:30 or 12. We used to get a regular chill followed by very much heat. Around 3 a.m. used to in a very high grade fever. In early morning there was a sweating, and this used to happen every day. Second important thing he told me that, doctor, what I don't know, but I feel tremendous chilly. I used to cover and I used to cover up to this, but I cannot cover my head. That was the second thing which he has explained. Third thing which he has explained was the characteristic thirst. He said that I'm tremendously thirsty, but I cannot take much more water. I used to take sip by sip every 5 or 10 minutes every day. So he was defining the arsenic album over there. Why not to give arsenic album? Only question was there, in which potency. Basically, whenever you are using the any remedy in intermittent fevers or malaria-like fevers, it is always better to give it when the sweating starts. So I asked him that, take this remedy. He came to me around 9 o'clock in the morning, and whole episode was happened earlier night. So it was better time to give him arsenic album. So I have given arsenic album 1 in 3 doses every 15 minutes. I asked me to report every day. The next day he visited me and he said that today I never had a chill. I slept very well today. After nearly about 3 4 days, he was already taking allopathic medicines, and the chill was not getting covered. And they asked him to hospitalize, and he came to me. And then he was quite better next day, and he felt weakness has gone. He wants to eat, and he consumed some food thereafter. And next day, I have never given him any medicine. I asked him to meet me again. This is very important thing which you have to think whenever you are treating intermittent fever. And second important, don't repeat unless and until indicated. If it is not indicated, don't utilize. Second important thing in such types of cases, whenever you are dealing with the intermittent fevers, that you have to watch patient carefully. You have to ask them to give the follow-ups regularly so that you can handle them very clearly in such disorders. So I have not given medicine, just placebo, and asked him to visit daily, and thereafter no more chill. So it is wonderful remedy in intermittent fevers that one should not forget. Deep acting remedy having 60 to 90 days action, psoriasis remedy, but having an acute phase. And that's why it's a wonderful remedy even in all varieties of acute cases. So that's all regarding two cases which I have shared with you about arsenic album. Let us go ahead with some more mental state which he mentions over there in the Allen's keynotes, and let us learn what he wants to say. Mentally, the patient is restless, but physically too weak to move. And that is the characteristic of the arsenic album. They're tremendously restless mentally, but they don't have a strength to move here and there. Restox is opposite. Restox is physically restless, and that's why he's continuously moving here and there. That is the basic difference. Cannot rest in one place, changing places continually, but just changing the sides, changing here and there, not moving like Restox here and there. It is in same place he used to change. wants to be moved from one bed to another and lies now here and now there. And that restlessness is because he is in an anxious mood. Anxiety is very marked, and their face is or countenance is full of anxiety more than fear. Fear, yes, definitely present, but not that much of fear of a aconite. Here, the anxiety dominates the fear in case of arsenic album. In aconite, fear dominates the anxiety. That is the difference between the arsenic and aconite. Aconite comes to you in a panic state. Arsenic comes to you in restless phase. He is there sitting in front of you, and he's always asking, "Doctor, shall I get cured?" He's not in panic mood, so that's what you have to go on observing the body language of the patient. Anxious fear of death. See, anxious fear of death. That is very important. How the patient will go on talking. "तर काही होणार तर नाही. Does anything happen to me?" He's he is anxious at the same time. He has a fear of death. But it is not the fear of death like aconite. "Doctor, do something. I will die." That is not the thing which aconite present. Anxious fear of death thinks it useless to take the medicine, is incurable. That is another arsenic modality. There is no use of medicine, doctor. I don't think I will going to remain alive. Why to take medicine? They averse the medicines, even allopathic medicines or even homeopathic medicine. They consider it is incurable and is going to die. Dread of death when alone. So whenever they are alone, there is always thought that they will going to die or going to bed. So dread of death whenever they are alone or whenever they are going to bed. Every time there is fear that they will going to die. See, this is very important regarding the arsenic album. This mental state which you have to grab, whatever may be the patient's complaint, whether patient comes for a toothache, whether patient comes for a fever, whether patient comes for any GI trouble, this state is always present. That state, if you are able to catch, then there is nothing to worry about what patient's physical complaints are there. Here the remedy gets defined. See, what next feature regarding mental attacks of anxiety at night, driving out of bed, aggravated after midnight. So patient becomes anxious at the midnight, and he comes out of bed, sits over there, moves here and there, and there is a fear of death, whether he will survive or not. That is the anxious mood which lies strongly in his mind. See, arsenic state, if you are able to catch at this level, then there is no need what particulars are there, what physicals are there. This is the state which is very, very, very characteristic about the arsenic. Then he says, burning. What is it? See, it is given in bold. Burning pains, the affected parts burns like fire, as if hot coals were applied to the parts, like anthracinum, ameliorated by heat, again given in bold, ameliorated by hot drinks, ameliorated by hot application. And this is the key point. Regarding the skin complaints, always keep it in your mind. If patient comes to you with psoriasis, whether lichen planus, whether eczema, whether any variety of skin manifestation, the just observe what are the symptoms first. Don't go on diagnosis. Ask the symptoms. Whether there is itching is whether there is scratching, whether there is burning. But what symptoms patient tells is very important. And if he tells burning, then confirm the modality, what exactly the thing with which he feels better. There are many patients who never defines directly. But if you ask them properly, then they defines, and that is very important. Always ask. That is my practical question. That how do you feel after bathing? That is simple way. So if patient feels he feels better after bathing, then you ask whether you take a cold water bath or warm water bath. See, you should form your questions practically so that it becomes quite easy for the patient to explain, because they never applies the cold water and they see that after cold water they feel better. It is not like that. So you just go on asking in a practical way, you get the information in the right way. Burning thirst without special desire to drink. There is tremendous thirst, but not taking lot of quantity. The stomach does not seem to tolerate because it cannot assimilate cold water. Patient cannot tolerate the cold water. Internally, patient is chilly. He wants warm water and he wants it in sips, not in big quantity. So patient is thirsty, tremendously thirsty, but not for cold water. Burning thirst lies like a stone in the stomach. The cold water lies in the as a stone in the stomach. It is wanted, but he cannot and dare not drink it. He wants the water. He wants even sometimes cold water, but it lies inside the stomach as a stone. Sometimes it creates a problem. So there is a thirst for warm water, and it is for also for sips of water frequently. That is the characteristic of the arsenic thirst. Cannot bear the smell or sight of food. Colchicum, sepia, ipecac, naxomica. These are very, very more common remedies, but colchicum, it is very strong. They cannot tolerate the smell of food, immediately get nauseated over there. The sepia also has the similar indication. So this is again with the arsenic, and if the patient is suffering from GI trouble, he always have those things. So GI trouble, this is too important to know that if there is a typical future that at the sight of or smell of food, if they get vomiting sensation, nausea, arsenic is one more remedy if the other symptoms matches. Great thirst for cold water, drinks often but little at a time, eats seldom but much. So thirst already we have discussed. There is thirst for sips of water. Second important thing, eats seldom but much. The opposite thing. He eats very occasionally but much quantity of food. And thirst is exactly opposite. Thirst, he never takes large quantity of water but sips of water. And this is opposite to each other. So this is what we have to understand. Gastric derangements after cold fruits. See what is this? Gastric derangement after cold fruit, ice cream, ice water, sour beer, bad sausage, alcoholic drinks, and strong cheese. All those things are aggravating factors. So, see, gastric derangement, generally gastritis or gastroenteritis because of cold fruits, because of ice cream, because of ice water, because of beer, sour beer. See, these are very, very important things. These are the causative modalities in case of arsenic. Bad sausage, alcoholic drinks, a strong cup, cheese. All those things always affect the arsenic and produces a gastritis. And this is not only the gastritis, it is associated with fever. Arsenic gastroenteritis or gastritis is always associated with fever. It becomes toxic. And that's why it is a good remedy for food poisoning. Poisoning explains the toxicity, and that toxicity is the result indication on which you can think about the arsenic along with that specific thirst of arsenic, that typical chilliness of arsenic, that and that typical the mental state of the arsenic that should be present. Teething children are pale, weak, and fretful, wants to be carried rapidly. See what is this? Teething children, they are pale. So children, they are quite pale, they are weak, they are fretful. Fretful means chidcore. They often gets irritated and wants to be carried rapidly. So they wants to be carried always. They never wants to keep them down. So teething children, this is one more remedy. Diarrhea. See, this is again more special aspect of arsenic album. In fact, wherever you have gastroenteritis associated with fever, associated with toxicity, first remedy you must think about the arsenic album. What he explains about diarrhea. Diarrhea after eating or drinking. So whenever patient eats or drinks, there is a diarrhea. Diarrhea, the stool is scanty, dark colored, offensive, and with whether small or large, followed by the great prostration. It doesn't mean that patient has to pass big amount of stools or number of frequency. Even few stools, patient goes prostrated, becomes prostrated, exhausted. He immediately becomes so weak. That weakness characterizes the arsenic album. That weakness defines the arsenic album. Patient goes many times into the state of shock also with very few vomiting, very few diarrhea, and patient enters into the shock state. So see, these are the things which one must understand properly so that it's quite easy for you to catch. Then he turns towards one more feature, that is hemorrhoids. And see, GI system, you get maximum symptoms. Hemorrhoids with stitching pain when walking or sitting. Stitching pains, the two important remedies one must know. One is brine, second is kali carbonica. This is one more remedy where you get the stitching pain, but it is not only stitching. Stitching is associated with or followed by burning. Stitching pain when walking or sitting. Hemorrhoids, mm, um, not at a stool. This is very specific. He is not getting the pain when patient passes the stool. Generally, if there is a fissure, patient generally have aggravation during passing the stool. But here the modalities are different. Patient gets pain whenever he is walking, whenever he is sitting in one place. That time the patient has the pain, and it is stitching type of pain. Hemorrhoids preventing sitting, very typical. Hemorrhoids preventing sitting. It does not allow the patient to sit properly, and as well as preventing the sleep. Two important things. Hemorrhoids which prevent the sitting, hemorrhoids which prevent the sleep, that much of painful hemorrhoids are there. What he says, first there is stitching, and now he explains the burning pain, and that is characteristic. Hemorrhoids, stitching pain followed by burning pain, and burning is the characteristic aggravated by the heat over here. Here, the complaint is aggravated by heat. It is local modality, specifically at the anal region. Hemorrhoids, generally patient is better by heat, but this specific at local level, it is aggravated by heat. Hemorrhoids, fissures make voiding urine difficult. This is a wonderful remedy for fissure in ano. Patient cannot pass urine because whenever patient passes urine, there is severe burning. Fissure in ano with severe burning, aggravated by heat, aggravated by sitting, aggravated by walking, but not aggravated by passing the stool. See the contradiction over here, and this contradiction at all levels, at the modality level. General modality is burning better by heat, but local modality is burning aggravated by heat at anal region as well as at the head level. So these are things one must not forget when you read the arsenic album, because there are contradictory modalities at the general level and particular level, and one must understand them properly. So he has explained about all GI features over there, and then he turns towards the respiratory complaints. We'll finish respiratory and we'll stop. Breathing. See what type of breathing is there. It is most important remedy in asthma. Breathing asthmatic must sit or bend forward. Bending forward amelioration. Generally sits like this, little bit forward bending. Kalika completely bends forward. Medorinum completely bends forward. They feels better by that. And there is a asthma better by making head erect like this, where the windpipe becomes straight. That is the epar sulfuricum. Every position defines you exactly the remedy. Arsenic aggravation by lying down, better by sitting, little bit bending forward. Breathing springs out of bed at night, especially after 12 o'clock. That is the very characteristic modality of the arsenic album. Breathing unable to lie down for fear of suffocation. That is very typical. Orthopnea. Patient gets aggravated whenever he gets lying down. He has to sit and he has to little bit bend forward. Many people, what do? They keep some table in front of they rest over that. That is the typical position with arsenic sits. Breathing attacks like crow instead of usual urticaria. So if urticaria is suppressed and the crowd develops associated with breathlessness, arsenic is one of the important remedy one should not forget. It is wonderful remedy for urticaria also. But where there is urticaria followed by burning, followed by better by warm application, that is arsenic urticaria. But if urticaria gets suppressed, patient gets either a very severe cough or patient gets a severe suffocation or breathlessness. And it is wonderful remedy to tackle the acute attacks of asthma. But if you go through the remedy properly, if you read the Kent's Materia Medica, then Kent has very clearly mentioned that this remedy is not curative in asthma. Asthma is a psychotic condition, and this remedy doesn't have psychotic taint. It has a sorosyphilitic miasm in background, and that's why arsenic settles that acute state but never cures. Patient either requires thuja or medorinum or natrum salt, depending upon his constitution, his miasm, his susceptibility, all those things which you have to take into consideration, and then you have to utilize them in order to get cured. So that's all about the Arsenic album. The second part, which we have finished about the Arsenic album, one more lecture will be required to learn the Arsenic album. Tomorrow we'll definitely finish the Arsenic album and then we'll go forward. So till that period, thanks a lot being there for this session. Any queries are there, we can have a chat. Otherwise, we'll conclude. So we'll meet tomorrow at the same time, both for philosophy session as well as the Materia Medica session. Thanks a lot.